for a little bit. Okay, so we're getting close to, I think, completing our discussion about Shtadlus versus Bitachon. So I think that I just want to make one point I want to talk about today for a little bit. For some reason, this is an idea that I think historically has been understood by people, but only till very recently has it become somewhat hazy. When we're talking about Hishtadlus versus Bitachon, and we're talking about a person who again, as we've been talking about all these weeks, someone who believes in the rules, who lives in a world of Elokim, of Teva, of nature, and because of that, in order to make a parnas, in order to survive, he has to work, he has to put in his effort, and so on. So there is a feeling amongst people, especially nowadays, is that whole situation, that whole issue of having to go to work to make a parnasa, of all the hishtadlus, of doing all the hishtadlus a person naturally has to put in order to make a living, that's all one big b'diavad. We talked about this last time, how the fact that things are unclear, the fact that it's not clear exactly how much effort a person has to make, and how much should he rely on Hashem, the fact that the world, that by its very nature, it's very difficult to have a clear answer to that. We talked about how Hashem, that's something that Hashem wants us to deal with. That doubt, that suffix is something that Hashem wants. But today, what I want to talk about is even more than that. It's not just that the doubt itself is something that Hashem wants, but the truth is, working itself is also something that Hashem wants. Let me clarify. We all know that when Adam Rishon sinned, when Adam sinned, so the curse that he was given, that all mankind was given, was that with the sweat of your brow, only with the sweat of your brow will you be able to eat. The person is going to have to work. So we all look at that as a curse. That's it's just a punishment. It's just straight up punishment. The truth is, it's not like that. I mean, it's a rachmanis, so we have to deal with such a thing. But Hashem, when he made that decree of it wasn't just, he was so angry, God forbid, that he wanted to really show humanity, to stick it to us, so he gave us such a thing as parnasa. We talked about this a number of times, that according to the Kabbalah, and is championed by the Arizal, one of the major reasons why Hashem created the world, the truth is, the reason why we're all here, is to what's called in the Sarah HaKadosh, to Yimal and Wtntu Kedusha, to uplift sparks of holiness. We've talked about this, how throughout the universe and throughout the planet, there are sparks of divine presence, whatever this means. However they got there is also a big topic, but these things, Hashem spread some potential spirituality throughout all the corners of the universe, and the purpose of creation is for mankind to somehow unleash these sparks, to redeem these sparks, and to return them to holiness, to return them to its master. So before Adam Rishon sin, this is where it's necessary to understand what parnas is, what work is, and how a Jew is supposed to go, what a person's mindset is supposed to do when he goes to work. It's important to clarify this point. Before Adam Rishon sinned, to after he sinned, nothing inherently changed as far as what the purpose of creation is. The purpose of creation was always to unleash and to uplift the sparks of holiness that are contained within physical life. That was always the purpose. What changed between before the sin and after the sin is the way how humanity was and is going to do this job. Before Adam Rishon sinned, Adam was on such a level, and all of humanity would have remained on such a level, where in order to redeem, let's say, a spark that's somehow found in the Amazon rainforest, where these things are literally found in crazy places. Before Adam Rishon sinned, in order for Adam to uplift that spark, that's, let's say again, for example, in the Amazon rainforest, it was not necessary for Adam to actually find himself in the Amazon. Adam Rishon was on such a level where doing his avodas Hashem on his spiritual level, meditating on the divine names of Hashem and unifying all the higher levels of reality, he would have acted like a huge magnet. This is what the Mekubal say. He would have been a huge spiritual magnet, where automatically all the sparks of holiness contained within all life and all matter would have been drawn towards him, and he would have been able to redeem these things without actually having to descend into these places. That was what would have been Adam Rishon before the sin. Adam Rishon after the sin, when Hashem said, that with the sweat of your brow you'll be able to eat bread, Hashem wasn't punishing Adam as if you're a bad boy and this is now your punishment. What Hashem was telling Adam is the following: that because of your sin, and why exactly the sin did this is not for now, what the sin was is not for now, but the result of your sin is that you have a tremendously diminished stature. And because of your diminished stature, you are unable just to stay sort of in your place in holiness, thinking about divine names and so on, and thinking about Torah. You are unable on your level now to do that and to have all the sparks of holiness come to you. What you're going to have to do in order to redeem the sparks, which is always what your job was from the beginning, is that you have no choice but to descend into those physical places. And by you being involved in those physical places and nevertheless doing a L'Shem Shemayim, making a bracha on food and so on, all these things that a person has to do in order to live, that's the only way how you will be able to uplift and to rescue and to redeem these sparks of holiness. In other words, what Hashem was telling Adam, and this is a very important message to us, what's important to remember is that a Jew going to work and doing the hishtadlus that he needs to do in order to make a parnasa is not a waste of time. There's a very, very important teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov taught that nothing in life is just in order to get you something else. Everything in life is custom made for that exact moment. The Baal Shem Tov himself gave an example. He said, let's say there's a Jew. His example was a person's in the garment business. So in order he's in the shirt business, for example. He produces shirts. So in order to make shirts, his company is offshore, and every once in a while he'll have no choice to travel. He has to travel to China, to those faraway places in order for his business. So the Baal Shem Tov said, if you ask such a person, why are you going to China? So he's going to tell you, I'm going to China in order to have certain meetings with my business partners over there, wherever the case may be, to oversee the manufacturing of my shirt. And so that's why I'm going to China. And then the person is asked, why do you need to make shirts? So his response is, in order to make a living. So basically, said the Baal Shem Tov, if you ask this person, why is he going to China? And all the effort that's involved in going to China is all just a hechatim. So it's all just a bridge to get to the tachlis, which is the paycheck. That's the Baal Shem Tov, that's what the person is going to say. Said the Baal Shem Tov, that's a big mistake. So said the Baal Shem Tov, why is this person supposed to go to China? Said the Baal Shem Tov, it could very well be the following thing. There's a cup of water in China. There's a glass of water in China that from the beginning of time, there's a spark of holiness or a piece of a spark of holiness that's contained in that glass of water. And from the beginning of time, that spark was destined to be fixed and to be uplifted by this person. So Hashem has a problem on his hands. This Jew, other Rishon sinned, which means that it's not enough for him to be able to sit in Yerushalayim and have the spark of holiness come to him. He's going to have to go there. So Hashem has a problem. This guy lives in New York City. He's a frum Jew living in Brooklyn and Queens, whatever the case may be. How in the world is he going to end up getting to China in order to drink that cup of water that he has to drink from the beginning of time? So Hashem therefore made it in such a way that he's going to be involved in a business which has an offshore manufacturing plant in China, and there's going to be some sort of problem with the machinery over there that's going to demand his attention, and he's going to have to, because of that, go to China. While he's in China, the hotel that he wanted to stay in is going to be fully booked, and he's going to have to go to the backup hotel, and the backup hotel, he's going to get thirsty one night. He's going to open the sink, turn on the sink, get a cup of water, make a bracha shahakal, and drink that cup of water that was destined to him from the beginning of time, and that is the purpose of his trip. So said the Baal Shem Tov, this person thinks that the reason why I'm working is in order to make a paycheck, and the tachlis is to make a paycheck. Said the Baal Shem Tov, it's the opposite. Hashem made the world in such a way where you need a paycheck in order to get you to work. And the work itself is the tachlis, because it's through the work that you find yourself in all sorts of places, with all sorts of people, and it's those contacts, and it's those events in a person's life, that is the purpose of your creation. So Hashem made means that Hashem needed us to get to all these crazy places and to meet all these sorts of people in order to uplift all these sparks of holiness that our souls are connected to. But Hashem had a problem. How in the world would this Jew ever end up in China if all his parnasa is coming easily to him? So in order for the strings to be made in such a way where this guy's going to end up in China, his parnasa had to be tied up with ishtalos. His parnasa had to be tied up with shirt manufacturing, and the shirt manufacturing industry had to be connected to China and so on, just to get into China to drink that cup of water. And the Baal Shem Tov went on further. He said the truth is it's more than that. Even on his way to China, he has to take a specific flight. And on the flight, he's sitting next to a specific person. and he has to see certain things. He has to see certain people and talk to certain people and say hello in an afternoon and deal with the stewardess and all the things that are involved in the plane. Said the Baal Shem Tov, every single piece of that is again from the beginning of time. He had to meet this person. He had to say a good morning to this person. There's something about this person from the beginning of time that in order to fix your neshama and to fix that person's neshama, you had to be connected to each other. And you had to say a good morning at exactly this moment. Everything is custom made. And in order to legitimize, in order to make this work out, how at 9:52 on December 25th, 2014, you are going to say a good morning to this stewardess, in order to legitimize that, in order to make that work out, again, you have to be in the clothing industry. And the clothing industry had to have some manufacturing in China. And there had to be some sort of issue with the plant. And you have to then make all this stuff in order for you to drink that cup of water at that exact moment. Because again, uplifting the spark of holiness is also dependent on time. Everything is about timing as well. Everything had to work out to get you to that moment to drink that cup of water at exactly 9:37. And everything had to work out to get you to say good morning to this stewardess at 3:52. Everything custom made. And the reason why Hashem did this, the reason why Hashem connected Parnasa with work is because if they were disconnected, there would be no reason for this guy to ever go to China. So said the Baal Shem Tov, this is an important thing to remember. As sad as that is, it's not it's not Rahman, it's not like a waste of time. Every single effort that a person puts in and every single situation a person finds himself in Parnasa is exactly for a tachlis. It's exactly for a tachlis. For whatever reason, I have my theories, but I'm not, maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys can have better explanations than I do. For some reason nowadays, this point is becoming very much forgotten. People are becoming of the mind that the tachlis is for every single Jew to sit and learn 24/7. That's the purpose of every single Jew's creation. And the fact that some Jews have to work is a complete b'diavad. They're not, and because of that, they're not in the hierarchy of the Jewish people. They're in a very, very low position. And their whole lives is pretty much a waste of time. That's pretty much the mentality that many people have. It's rachmanis. But the truth is, it's a very big mistake. Very big mistake. The aleph base of Chassidus and Kabbalah is that every single event in a person's life, as seemingly meaningless as it might be, is has profound significance. And in order to make these things happen, there's no choice that you have to be in a certain business. Baal Shem Tov said further. Baal Shem Tov even said that very often it could be that the only reason why a person is, again, let's say going to China on business, it could very well be that the only reason why he's there is in order to schlep along his business partner. Meaning it could be that really his business partner has a cup of water in China that's waiting for him, but in order for him to get to China, you have to go along with him because otherwise it wouldn't work out, whatever the case may be. So everything is very, very custom made, and it's a big tragedy if a Jew looks at his life and all the hours that a person puts into making a living. If a Jew looks at that as all just a waste of time and one big b'diavad and one big effort just in order to get a paycheck, that's a big mistake. The paycheck is there in order for you to work, and the work itself is of its own tachlis. Now again, so what does that mean? So does that mean that everyone should just take the first job that comes to them and dafka take jobs that will force them to go to somewhere in the in Yehupit? Obviously not. A person has to have seichel, and there are certain signs, there are certain simanim about how a person should know: is this job for me? Am I supposed to be doing this right now? I'll mention a couple right off the top of my head. One important thing, which is obvious, but the truth is it has to be remembered very much, is that a person's talent is a very strong indication of what a person is supposed to be doing in life. But I mentioned that, I think I've mentioned this before, that back in the day, when we had Nevi'im, when you had prophets, so if a person wanted to know what his tachlis was, am I here in order to be in the lumber business, because being in the lumber business is going to cause me to be involved with people in the rainforest, in the Amazon, and somehow there's an apple there that's waiting for me to fix it. So am I supposed to be in the lumber business? So back in the day, you go to a Navi, and the Navi would tell you this is your purpose of creation. Nowadays, we don't have that. So one of the great indicators is a person's talent. If a person has a specific talent and he's drawn to a specific area of life, that's a very strong sign that that's what he's supposed to do. Obviously, it has to do with intellect, it has to do with hadracha, and you have to speak to the right people because otherwise, a person could definitely make a mistake. But if a person is honest and he's davening, he's trying to do the right thing, and he's not trying to fool himself or be fooled by others, then a person's talent is a very strong indication of where in life he's supposed to be pulled. Another thing that's very important is happiness. A person could be told from today till tomorrow you're supposed to be a doctor, but if he's not happy, then that's a very strong indication that that's not what he's supposed to be doing. Now, again, that doesn't mean that every single day at a person's work from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, you should have a smile on your face. It's understandable that a person's not constantly happy, but a certain sense of accomplishment, a certain sense of satisfaction in a person's job is very important. And that's a very strong indication that that's what he's doing. If a person is, for example, learning all day and he's not happy, that's also an indication maybe that's not for you. And if a person is working while he's a lawyer or something and he's not finding any satisfaction, any real sense of wholeness inside of them, that's also a strong indication. So again, there's no question as far as what position in life a person should take, what direction life a person should take. A person should speak with people and so on. I'm not saying that's always so easy. It's not easy at all. And even if a person speaks with people, sometimes it's still difficult. As I mentioned last week, the doubt itself is sometimes inescapable. However, again, I think it's important to remember this, that there are certain indications, for example, happiness and a person's talent. And it's important to remember that if a person is drawn either willingly or sometimes unwillingly into a business or into an area of life where it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time, a person should never look at that as just a b'diavad, as just a situation in order to legitimize the paycheck, and really the tachlis is what happens, what I use the paycheck for. Very, very often in life, the tachlis of why you're here is the work itself, And there's something that's taking place in your job, whether you recognize it or not, whether you ever figure it out in your lifetime. That itself might be your tachlis. And that doesn't mean that a person shouldn't daven and learn. Obviously, we all have to keep as much Torah mitzvahs as we possibly can, and we have to learn as much as we can. That's part of Shulchan Aruch. Whenever a person has whenever a person has time, you spend that time learning. That's clear for every single Jew, just like tefillin is for every single Jew. But those people in life that find themselves in a situation where they're involved in work for a majority of the day, or even a part of the day, it's important for them to recognize that it's not a waste of time. It could very well be that their specific mission in life as individual people is to accomplish what they have to accomplish at work. Again, whether it means a cup of water in China, whether it means a specific relationship with a person in the office, whether it means an opportunity to be honest in business, whatever the case may be, these are things that were custom made for us as individuals. And if Adam didn't sin, these things would have happened sort of magnetically on their own. Once Adam sinned, we have no choice but to put ourselves in these crazy situations in order to uplift these sparks of holiness. But those sparks of holiness were custom made for us to uplift them. So I think it's an important thing to remember, just in the whole perspective of Vishas versus Bitachon. I don't want it to come off seeming as if work is completely b'diavad and it's only for low people. It's a very big mistake for a person to make such a thing. So I noticed sometimes there were some questions. I didn't have a chance to see them though. So Dovie, maybe if you could read them to me.
Yeah, sorry, I was just on mute. Okay, so the first question we had was, according to the Baal Shem Tov, where is a person's bechira? If everything is sort of being directed in a specific way, where does a person's bechira come in?
So like I said, there's no question that there are certain Hashem, in order for a person to fulfill his tachlis, Hashem will manipulate his free will in order to get him, for example, that hotel in China and having the cup of water in his hand. Now, this is where your free will kicks in. The free will is now, are you going to make a bracha? Are you going to make the bracha with kavana? You know what I mean? And are you going to be drinking l'shem shemayim? This is where your bechira kicks in. But it's 100% true. Every single one of us knows that there are situations in life that we find ourselves in places that was against our will. So what the Baal Shem Tov is telling us is that those situations were for a reason. If Hashem manipulated your life and forced you, so to speak, in a certain place, with a certain person, then it's for a reason. Now your free will is, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to kick and scream and refuse to accept my situation in life and pretend as if my tachlis is on the other end of the earth, or am I going to accept my situation? I'm going to accept with love what Hashem has placed in front of me, and I'm going to use my free will to make the best of and to serve Hashem properly right now at this moment. That's what free will is about. So there's no question that very often we find in life a person is forced against his will to be in situations he doesn't want to be in. But that's 100% true. That's Hashem manipulating your life to get you someplace for a reason. Now your free will is, are you going to serve Hashem? Are you going to accomplish what you're supposed to accomplish right now? So if a person, let's say, spends 30 years in an industry just in order, and it's all coming to a head to get him to have that cup of water in his hand, and that cup of water he drinks without making a bracha, so it's a problem. It's a problem because everything was in order to get to that place, and now you messed up. So what is Hashem going to do then? So as we talked about, Hashem always has backup plans. There's always backup plans. But again, ultimately speaking, it's up to you to make that correct decision right now, and that's really where free will is.
Okay, the next question we had was, does the Musar or Litvish worldview differ? You don't hear the same thing.
I'll tell you like this. Listen, we're all chaverim over here. This is being recorded, but it's still between us. If you ask the average yeshiva guy, what's the difference between Chassidus, between Baal Shem Tov and the Gra? What's the difference between the two? So, I didn't do this with every single yeshiva guy, but I feel strongly that the average guy will tell you the difference is, Baal Shem Tov was into Kabbalah and the Gra was into Halacha. That is a tremendous tragedy. Anyone that knows anything, and I say this strongly, anyone that knows anything about the Gra and about Torah in general knows that the Gra spent most of his time in Kabbalah. So something happened. What exactly happened, why this happened is not for now, but something did happen along the way. From the time of the Gra till now, something happened that in that world in the literature world, in the yeshiva world, something happened that aspect of what the Gra was about, and that aspect of Torah in general has taken, I'll say nicely, has taken a backseat. It's really a lot worse than just a backseat. If a person is not connected to Kabbalah at all, if a person is not connected to Pnimis HaTorah at all, then what I've just been talking about is gibberish, is meaningless, is nonsense, and is even heresy, right? Because if a person doesn't have any connection to Pnimis HaTorah at all, then, and all you have in life and your entire perspective of Yiddishkeit is solely based on non-Kabbalah texts, then you get the perspective that work is a waste of time. Any time that's not spent in davening or learning or actual mitzvahs is a waste of time, because there's what's being accomplished right now. You're being involved in a business deal. You're dealing with litigations with clients. It's all a waste of time. Nothing's happening. So if a person is disconnected from Kabbalah, then most of life becomes meaningless. And therefore, what I'm trying to say is that this is not a machlokas between the Gra and the Baal Shem. There's no question about it that all the Mekubalim, whatever type of hat you happen to wear, all the Mekubalim agree to this. There's no question about it. What happened nowadays is the fact that in the yeshiva world there has been a forgetting of the Pnimis HaTorah, and Pnimis HaTorah Kabbalah has again not infiltrated all of its life fully into the yeshiva world, which is itself tragic, and there is reasons for this, but maybe it's not for now. So therefore, it's become this very, very confusing situation. But it's important to remember that this is not these concepts. The Gra was the greatest in Kabbalah. The Gra was the biggest. The Gra was the biggest in Kabbalah. The Gra was so it would be shocking to most yeshiva guys to hear how much the Gra was talking about Mashiach, how much the Gra pushed for Mashiach, how much the Gra pushed for Eretz Yisrael to be developed physically. All these things there has been a big cover up a little bit about talking about these things about the Gra. But the Gra's whole life was about Kabbalah. This whole life was about Pnimis HaTorah. This whole life was about building the physical land of Eretz Yisrael, which is connected to physical work. It's all connected to that. So there's been a very big confusion, and I think it's important for us to clarify these points, that nothing in life is v'diavad, according by the Mekubalim. There's nothing that's v'diavad. And like I said, looking at life as v'diavad and looking at times in life as v'diavad is coming from a perspective of a person who's completely disconnected from Pnimis HaTorah. from the soul of Torah, really. And that's death. And because of that, you look at most of life as death. But those people that are still connected to Pnimis Torah, that still have a connection to that, know clearly that everything in life is meaningful. Every single second in life is full of tachlis, full of potential, and full of great meaning. Yeah, so I'm seeing a question over here, I think, and tell me if I read it correctly, that someone asked, so it doesn't the Rambam say that a person can serve Hashem by eating and so on? There's no question that even if a person doesn't believe in, isn't influenced by Kabbalah, there's no question, everyone agrees that a person can turn every single aspect of life into a mitzvah. But the difference is as follows. When a person, let's say, eating, like in the Rambam says, a person could eat in order to be healthy and in order to serve Hashem. A person could go to work in order to make money, in order to have enough, in order to serve Hashem. That, as great as that might be, and as, halavai, we should all live in such a way, that's still looking at these things as a means to an end. Eating is still not significant. Eating is still there just because the body's weak and we're not going to be able to live without eating. So nebuch, we have to eat. While I'm eating, I might as well do l'shem shamayim. But it's still not looking at eating as a tachlis. It's still not looking at working as a tachlis. What I'm trying to say by the Mekubalim is that eating is a tachlis. Working is a tachlis. It's not just in order to keep you healthy in order to learn and daven. Eating itself is by itself a tachlis. Working is itself a tachlis. That's the point. That's the chiddush, and that's the important. I'm glad that person asked that question just to clarify this point. Everyone agrees that things could be turned into a mitzvah, but if without Kabbalah, the mitzvahs that eating can be turned into or working can be turned into are themselves just a means towards an end. But to turn them into an end in and of itself, it's impossible to do without understanding the perspective of Pnimis Torah. That's what I'm trying to clarify. If there's any other questions, please feel free.
I'm going to unmute in case anybody called in wants to ask questions. Go ahead. Everybody's unmuted at this point. Anyone? Okay. Shkoyach Yossi.
Pleasure.
And we'll see everybody next week.